Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas here with you this morning, visiting with Allison Reed. She is from Cru. Some of you may remember Campus Crusade for Christ, and this is that, correct, Allison?
Yes, it is.
And your role with Cru now is, tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, so I am on staff with Cru in the Cleveland and Northeast Ohio area, and I have just joined with staff. I previously interned for a couple of years, and I am officially joining staff as a career to work with college students in the Northeast Ohio area, talking to them about the gospel.
Talk to us about you. What is it that interested you in Cru? Were you involved as a student, and this was something that you thought you'd like to do full-time? How did that work?
Yeah, I was involved as a student. I went to Ohio State in Columbus for school, and I knew that I wanted to be involved in a Christian ministry. I came into college knowing the Lord, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And the Lord blessed me with having a random roommate who was a Christian. She had researched all of the college ministries at Ohio State, which there was a lot of them, and decided she was going to go to Cru. And so I said, you did the hard work, and I'll go with you. Yeah, so it worked out really well. The Lord just slowly showed me through Cru, through my entire college career of 5 years. I did an undergrad and a master's there. Just what it meant to be in relationship with Him through Cru, because I definitely think that a lot of what Cru wants to do is to show students what it means to have a Christ-centered life instead of a self-centered life. And I am just so thankful for that. And so having experienced that as a student, I really wanted to make that a possibility for students now to experience as well.
I think it's very interesting that you now are doing the ministry in which you participated in as a student at college, who I'm sure you didn't go to Ohio State in order to major in some kind of a major that would lead you into ministry, or did you?
I did not. I actually studied French education, so I was going to become a French teacher. And I think when I got to the point of making career decisions, it was just very clear to me that the Lord was pushing me towards ministry, that I could, continue with the experience that I had with Cru and with the community there and with people that were really passionate about sharing the gospel and for college students to know about the Lord.
Tell us a little bit about the importance of these kinds of organization, Cru and others, the place that they play in a place like Ohio State, which is like a small city in itself. How important is it for these kinds of organizations to exist there for students?
Yeah, very important. The school at Ohio State is huge. I loved that school for that reason. I grew up in a small town, and so I was very excited about the big campus, but it is very easy to get lost in the shuffle on a college campus. Whether you come in a Christian or not, oftentimes just college life with its social aspects and school aspects can just pull you away from any spiritual thinking that you might do. If you're coming in as a Christian, you're going to have so many new influences around you at a public university that is just going to be pointing you away from Jesus and away from walking with Him, even if it's just distractions and nothing negative. And if you're not a Christian coming into college at a public university, it's so easy to get through your entire college career without thinking about God at all. And then, of course, you're hearing from people that you respect, like your professors and faculty, oftentimes saying things that are very contrary to the gospel or pointing out what they think are flaws in the Bible or things like that. And you hear that, and it's so hard to keep going with your walk with the Lord if you're not deeply entrenched in community on campus that are with other Christians.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. Tell me what it's like to be in your skin on a college campus, what life these days, university life, is like when you are trying to also live out your faith. Do you get pushback?
You do, especially if you're being
faculty?
Active. It is rare, but it happens. I know I never had an outright experience myself as a student. The most that ever happened for me was I took a philosophy class my freshman year that was just obviously very, centered around the academics of the past and had this basic idea that Christianity was silly or not noteworthy to talk about in philosophy. And as a freshman, there was no way I was going to confront that idea. I was too nervous and scared. I kind of wish I could go back sometimes. But
that almost sounds like the first God is Dead movie.
Yes,
or
I
the
actually
God's
haven't
not
watched it
the
yet.
God's
but
Not
yeah.
Dead movie. It sounds like that.
Yeah, and I think that was an extreme version of things that could happen. I haven't watched it, I've just seen the previews, but those are mentalities that people do have on campus, and whether it happens as dramatically as that movie does
Right.
or not, those are ideas that are often, held by faculty or students on campuses.
So if we go back, and I don't want to hit you with something that is beyond your wheelhouse, but the history of Cru or Campus Crusade for Christ back in the day, that was the original purpose, to be able to give believers some place to meet fellow believers in an environment that might not be friendly to believers. Is that what we're saying?
Sure, that was definitely part of it. So Cru was started as Campus Crusade for Christ in 1951 by Bill and Vonette Bright at UCLA. And they have just started a ministry that will reach out to college students, whether they're Christians or not. And they just felt a call from the Lord, specifically Bill and Vonette came along to bring the gospel to college campuses.
And when you're talking about that age group, it's such a questioning age anyway, and you're having to make so many major life decisions all in one very compact time period of 4 years. It's interesting that, and it's logical really, that those issues of faith issues, and even just integrity and morality issues would come into play at the same time. Do you sense on campus right now anything different taking place now that you're on this side of it? Is this what you see the students that you engage with dealing with? Do you relate to them in that way? Is it similar to your experience, or are they even dealing with other things than you did?
I think coming at it from the other angle of being even at different colleges than I went to. So we're in the Cleveland area at different colleges
Right.
that I didn't experience as a student. Those are even very different. But then as well, I think the story is always the same. You go to college and you figure out who you are. It's the first time that you're away from your parents' influence for long periods of time, unless you're a commuter, but you're still figuring that out too. And it's the first time that you're saying, I'm going to make decisions that are going to affect me for the rest of my life. And you're deciding where you're going to place the focus of your life, and that could be something you could say, I'm going to place it on academics. I'm going to place it on my social life. I'm going to place it on Jesus, or various other things that you could focus that on. And all too often, I think students are just so concerned in college about success, which is what they're there for. But success is in the Lord and trusting in Him. And when you're trusting in Him, He's going to provide for you. And so I think that's a big thing that students are learning, is that it's not about chasing the biggest job or the best dollar point that you can get once you graduate, but where is the Lord leading you?
It's almost like college students go through waves as far as what are the priorities. There are years where almost the group think is that, yes, I want to graduate and I want to land a six-figure salary right out of the box. There are other times, waves, where students are extremely politically active. There are times where there's a lot of social justice issues on their minds. And it's almost like, as a group, these generations go through. Where are college students now?
I would say a lot of college students are really focused on the social justice as well nowadays. There's a lot happening in the world, as everyone is aware of. And so I think that's a big part of it. But I also think it does depend on what school you go to, because it is kind of true that the school you choose reflects who you are and who you want to be, So I would say, for one thing, like Case Western students in Cleveland, they're very success-oriented. They're all the academic majors that you think of as high-point dollar jobs, and they're very focused on their schoolwork. Other schools, obviously, they're concerned about their schoolwork because they're in school and they're there for a reason, but maybe more of them are more focused on social aspects, or maybe even sports at some schools and things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What does Cru look like in Northeast Ohio?
Great question. So Cru has about 11 current campuses that we're on in Northeast Ohio, and that's out of the 25 college campuses that are within the Northeast corner. And so there is a team called Cru Cleveland and Greater Cleveland and Cru Northeast Ohio, and that's the team that I'm on. We also have a team at Kent State that also takes care of Akron. So we have 2 Cleveland crew staff teams, if you will. And so the schools that my team is on is Cleveland State, Case Western, Cleveland Institute of Art, Baldwin Wallace, John Carroll, Youngstown State, and Mount Union. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So it comes down to as far as alliance then.
Yes.
You include Mount Union in that. What's the reaction and response? How active are students in crew?
Yeah, I would say that we are steadily growing. The movement in Northeast Ohio is still pretty young. We have been active for around 5 or 6 years with the current team of people we have working and just very focused on growth and expansion. But currently, we have around 270 students involved in the 9 schools that I work with. And that is just absolutely amazing. It's the biggest number we've had since our current staff team came up here.
9 schools that you are personally working with.
Yeah, so we have a really good system going. There are about 12 staff members for those 9 schools, and we all focus on 2 or 3 of them. So when I was an intern, I got to focus on Baldwin Wallace, Cleveland State, and John Carroll.
You must be good at remembering names and faces and so forth, that kind of thing. Do you find differences from campus to campus?
Yeah, definitely. I do kind of joke sometimes that there is the typical person at the different campuses. For instance, Baldwin Wallace is known for its theater program and music program. So you have the more artsy type there. Cleveland State is often commuter college students that still live in Cleveland, so they're Cleveland strong. And then Case Western, things like that, very academic. John Carroll often has a really good heart for philanthropy. So there's just lots of different things, and obviously no one person fits in one box.
Yeah, right. I will say this, though. One observation I've made about babies born after September 11th of 2001 seem to have a sense of urgency that life is not forever. So whether they are mission-driven, whether they are driven by social justice, whether they want to seek the high dollar, it seems like whether it's in service to others or service to themselves, it seems like they want to do it now.
Yeah, I think that's true. I haven't thought about it that way. It's kind of interesting for me that oftentimes students I'm working with are not that much younger than me. So I was born before 2001. I was old enough to remember 2001 when September 11th happened, but they were not, So I never thought about that way. And so I think that is something that is very apparent on college campuses. People who come to college come because they have a goal in mind of some kind, and so I do think they are very focused on the here and now and the how do I get ahead, whether, whatever place it is that they want to get ahead or how they want to get ahead.
We're speaking with Allison Reed. She's from Cru. You may remember it as Campus Crusade for Christ back in the day. How many years now have you been Cru?
I don't know exactly. It's been probably about 5, I would guess.
Okay, so long enough. We should all be familiar with this by now, right? How do you relate to the other such organizations? I'm thinking Navigators and some other things on campus. Do you do things together? Do you complement each other? Or is there some kind of competitive nature of trying to get students to join your group?
We try not to do that. At a lot of our schools, we are one of the only, if not the few, ministries on campus. We do have some intervarsity, like at Case Western has that, and even some more local things that maybe local churches are doing on campus and things. And we do try to get, anytime we can to do things together. I know we've done outreaches at Case Western with IV before, and just trying to really be the body of Christ, not, butt heads or anything.
Not butt heads, but there are arms and legs and eyes and ears, and the body of Christ.
Yes.
Thank you so much. We are speaking with Allison Reed. We're going to take a short break. You're listening to Our Community.